All right. Welcome. Here we are again, round 2 for NoBS Photo Buzz. In a few minutes, let people come in, log in. I'm not sure if much of anyone is going to join us, but we're going to wait and see. So
it says there's like 4 already.
All righty, good to hear. So my name is Rob Provencher from NoBS Photo Success, along with our second ever, and John Butler, my good buddy, all the way from Petawawa, Ontario, who's kind of like spearheaded this movement, and I'm really excited about it. I don't know why I'm excited, because every time I think about this lockdown thing, I get a little bit depressed. But at the same time, I think, you know what? You can't let it get you down.
That's true.
Especially, it's hard, especially if you're self-employed. It makes little sense when you're not allowed to work, and it's easy to just let this weigh you down. And all the more reason why you got to really listen to the message that we're going to bring to you guys today, which is all about being accountable. Be accountable to your business, to yourself, to your personal life, your family, and to do what you can as a self-employed individual in the area of photography. And that way you can have the tools that you need to move forward. So, yeah, today's theme is accountability, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But I want to just bring up some news. And then I want to talk to John about accountability in a minute. The news that I have is to do with next week on Tuesday. I believe, John, you're okay if we go one day earlier next week, because we got Randy Sarton all the way from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Definitely.
Longtime member of NoBS Photo Success, and big-time sports photographer who's had some amazing changes in this photography business since the COVID lockdown. And he adapted, and he sent me an email a few weeks ago, and I said, we got to bring this on. We got to bring this on the live stream. So he'll be joining us next Tuesday. Now, we went a day early because of the distraction that will be going on the originally scheduled day, which was Wednesday. So, John, do you know what's going to happen on Wednesday?
Yeah, I believe Randy said something to do with their leader or something.
I can't lip read either.
Their country leader.
I still can't hear you. What's going on?
You can't hear me?
Hold on.
Hello?
Nod your head if you heard me the whole time.
Yeah, I've been hearing you. I haven't touched anything. So can you hear me?
All right. Hold on. Say something now. I think it was a my
Hello.
end.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Sorry. I'm guessing that it was setting at my end. For some reason, it switched over to my computer.
You and I
speakers.
went through this the other day, remember?
Yeah, we did. And we figured it out. So it's a good thing we did that test. John and I we did a 45-minute test a few days ago, and we got rid of all these glitches. So I knew exactly what to fix. Anyway, so John, do you know what's going on next Wednesday?
I believe it had something to do with their leader.
The elections, yada, yada, yada. And they do is it a convocation or something like that? Or
no, I don't know. It's I guess where they announce, like he basically takes office. The new president takes office.
Yeah. So
we're here in Canada, so
that'll possibly be the start of a civil war, which some people are telling me, or some sort of I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? But here's the thing: you got to focus on your business, because that's what's important right now. And I've probably mentioned this to you. I'm not going to talk about it too much. I made a post about it. Last spring, 3 months, we were down, and I really had a hard time with that. I did not collect CERB, which our government is basically giving us free money, on principle, and on the fact that I do own some real estate. I make a little bit of income that way, and I didn't want to take any chances. So I just stuck it out, and boom, business came back with a flurry. We had our best year ever, and it was amazing. So, but anyway, so Randy Sarton's coming next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Stay tuned for that. The other news that I want to bring to you, it's really exciting, and that is I contacted Thomas Dodd. I think he's down in Georgia. He's an amazing photographer, one of the few photographers that I know of that has a Wikipedia entry. We had him on twice in previous webinars, and we're going to get him on a live stream a couple of weeks from now, as well as the one and only Brian DeMint. I contacted Brian as well, and we have a list. John and I have been compiling a list of names. Yeah. Now, if you want to get on that list, you let us know. John, we'll throw them on there, won't we?
Definitely.
So if you have a photography-related story, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be a photography-related story. It can be anything to do with goal setting. As a matter of fact, before I ask you my question, John, let me give you 2 examples of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a sort of a story and or a metaphor and or a lesson that can be learned that's outside of the industry that you can apply to photography. One, many of you know I was on Man Tracker. I was the last official chase with the original Man Tracker, which is a reality TV show. I went down to Utah, and we were the last chase with the original Man Tracker, and got to know the producer of the show, the creator of the show, very well. And his story was so fascinating. I interviewed him about 7 or 8 months later, and it's in the forum because I thought what he had said and how he had created that show, I found it so compelling. I had to interview him, and because there's lessons everywhere. There's all kinds of places that we can learn from. And also, I was telling this to, I think it was Tina the other day, Craig Kerr from Ohio. He came to the very first or second Inferno back in 2006 or 7. And I was one of the key presenters, of course, because it was our Inferno. And one of the things I talked about was goal setting. And I did this whole presentation. And he stopped me in the hallway during our break. He said, Rob, everything you said is 100% bang on. Now, he's a pilot. He's an airline pilot, and he started his own company with another guy on to do with leasing airplanes, and it was very successful. And he told me, he said, we use exactly the same strategies that you were talking about.
Wow.
And I said, that is amazing, to build his like an airline company. And I was like, all right, this is cool. And I said, do you mind when we go back, can you go up and tell this story to everybody? So he did. And, this stuff works. If you're skeptical about goal setting and or being accountable or any of the stuff we're going to talk to you about today, try and take it from a different perspective and know that this stuff works, that this is not a flash in the pan, fly by night. This is universal, transcends all generations, and it's applicable as it was 100 years ago as it'll be 100 years from now. So what else did I want to mention? Yeah, it's Maria's birthday today. Happy Maria birthday. Yeah, we were maybe hoping to get her on here, but she's probably going to be on one of our future live streams. Johnny?
Yeah, I was talking to her yesterday, and I told her that too. So I'd like to get her on here, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So if I look like I was looking down there, it's because the computer was way down here, the laptop. So I actually got some Apple box here and just raised it up there. So
that helps.
More at the camera now.
Yeah.
And can I just make one little comment for anybody that's watching this live right now? If you see above the live broadcast in the text there, you'll see it says, please give StreamYard permission to use your name. If they do that, when your comments come in on the right-hand side to me on here, I will have your name, because if you look right by on the bottom here, like if I put if I put Dan on there, you can see I have his name there and I have his comment. But the problem is, if you don't let them have your permission, when you look at Danny's here, it comes through as just Facebook user, and we don't know who you are. So I have to actually look at my phone on the feed to see who you are. So just a quick little housekeeping there. It just takes 2 seconds. You're giving them permission to use your name, and that way when you comment, we can see who you are. Sorry about that, Rob. I just wanted to get that out there.
That's fine. No, that's important stuff, and I can't believe it. Danny Rebel is here. What? Yeah. Danny, you're on my list. You're on our list. Dan Morency, you're on our list.
Because I could see Randy's here, Danny's here, and Dan Morency, the stalker, he's here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who else is here, but I know they're here.
This is good. Good to have you guys here. So, John.
Yes, sir.
I had 2 questions. So I'm going to go light, then I'm going to go hard on you, okay? So you were talking to Maria last night, and she had suggested that what you were doing during lockdown, she suggested some books. Can you tell us quickly what that was all about?
Well, she was just saying that back in the summer, I guess, when even the States were in lockdowns and that, trying to keep her sanity. She loved, she's not much of a reader, she says. I mean, she's like me. reads a few pages, starts falling asleep in that. So she's like, I think she's more like you, where it's the audiobooks. You like to put it in your car, you like to do it. And she said she was the same way. She likes to read
Right.
while she's driving the car, or when she's just editing or something, she puts these audiobooks on so she can, it's like she's reading as she's doing it. And so she gave me these motivational ones. I haven't had a chance to actually look at them yet, but she sent me about 3 of them. The one was the one that she sent in the NoBS photo success page there. And then there was 2 other ones that I can share it on the page later today if you want.
Please do that. The one book is called The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins.
So I don't know if that's about actually motivational one, or is that about food? If you drop it on the floor, that 5-second rule, I don't know.
It's both. So I was wondering where you were going with that. So I think it's more productivity and not food, but to clarify what you said a minute ago, John, I read a lot. I always have several books on the go. I got my morning book, which I read on Kindle, and I got my night book, which I read on Google Reader. And I don't like audiobooks.
Okay.
I can't listen to audiobooks.
No.
However, I listen to a shitload of podcasts.
Yep.
Anything I find interesting. I love this stuff, especially stuff to do with trends. Big fan of Joe Rogan. Big fan of Tim Ferriss. Absolutely one of my favorites, because his stuff is always, it's going to be good. I don't care if he interviews the garbage man down the road or whomever. It's going to be good. I don't care if he interviews somebody from Tennessee. It's going to be good.
Yep.
That was a jab at Tennessee, by the way. Yep. Always open season. So, John, you had last week we talked about you had an offer from a local life coachy lady who was going to offer to do your some sort of coaching with you, and obviously to do with goal setting. So before we get into accountability and all that stuff, how did that go, or did you pursue it? I'm making you accountable right here, now.
We did it. It's one of my best friends here, my wife and I. She's a really close friend of ours. She actually used to be in the strip mall that we're in the studio here, and then she moved downtown about 5 minutes away. Actually, her studio now is beside where you and Tina went to dinner with us that night, beside that restaurant. She's down there now, and she held me accountable. I had to postpone it one day because you and I were doing this podcast on the one day. So we postponed the day after, and I went down to her place and we sat down. And before I left, she told me to make a list. And she said, be as brutal as you want, or be as honest as you want. Cool. And so I don't have it in front of me actually, but it is, I think it's here somewhere. But I actually, give me 1 second here. I will show you.
He's going to show us. He's going to show us his list.
Shows you how accountability is. I've got it right here with me. I brought it. I have it in the studio here.
That's a hell of a list.
I don't know if you can see on there or not, but
nice.
Pretty extensive list there. I know it's kind of blurry because the camera's focused on me.
We get the idea, though.
It is the whole page, and I broke it down for 2021 goals. We got the first part here is business goals. Mm-hmm. The second part here was personal goals, to do with family and stuff, and at the bottom was other, which is just basically anything outside of my personal life or my photography business.
Nice.
So, and we went through it all, and she made notes. She even took a picture of that so she can make sure that she keeps me accountable on it. And we're going to follow through, because if most of these can come through, then it's just going to make 2021 that much even better.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you did that. Wow, it's amazing.
First time I've ever done something like that. Like, I've always been told in the past you should make these goal lists, and you preach it all the time on NoBS for the last 13 years that I've been a part of NoBS.
I do.
You're always saying how you do goals and lists and stuff. So it's about time I stood up to the plate. So
what are your thoughts so far on it? What did you think? Both positive, negative, or apprehensive? What do you think about the process so far? Having somebody coach you, and this is key right now. You have an accountability partner, and she's obviously trained in this area. So what did you think?
I was really up for it. Even my wife, she was telling me that, you don't need to go to somebody for that. I mean, you and I can just keep each other accountable, but you don't, because you let things slide, or if things happen at home with the kids or something, they're like, oh, don't worry about it. We didn't do our goals this month, but we'll do it next month. There's no accountability per se. It's more excuses. Let me address that point. Yes.
Because you're talking about your wife, who's your business partner.
Yeah.
Why are you more prone to excuses and procrastination? She's your business
I think it's
partner.
more because we're comfortable with each other and we know each other's habits, probably.
Okay. All right.
But
cool.
with this person, she's not in the same household. She's not part of our business. She has no direct, what's the word I'm looking for? Impact on if I follow through with these or not. It's either I do it or I don't. It doesn't affect her life in any way. So, but she's still going to make me accountable for it because she's going to check up on me all the time. She even said she's putting some little scheduling thing together. I haven't got it from her yet, but she's going to put some little scheduling type of thing together so that I try and keep on track and try and stay with these goals as best as possible. And she is a certified life coach. It's not just somebody who just one day thought she was good at giving people advice and decided I'm going to coach people. She actually went and got certification. So she's somebody who I can trust. And because she's one of our best friends here, I know I can trust her like on a personal level. So I wasn't afraid to put things down there because I know there was no judgment. So I think that's what it is too. I think a lot of people are afraid to go to somebody like that because they are afraid they're going to be judged.
Yeah, it's fear.
Yeah, it's a fear, but you just got to get over that. And it's just a matter of when I showed it to her, she said, actually, my list looked great considering it's the first time I ever done it. But she said her list that she did for herself, and she's done one with her kids and that who are teenagers and grown up now. But she said that her list was even longer than mine and even stuff that are like totally out of the park, but she didn't care. She put them down anyways.
You got to put them all down, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I really believe in. And I did a 18-month goal setting workshop coached in a group. I used to drive 4 hours once a month to Richmond Hill. And that's what it was. It was you had to have 3 variations of each goal. And that, one goal would be your I can achieve this really easy. But then there was a target goal. And then there was the extreme crazy version of that goal, which you weren't expected to do. But every once in a while, a crazy goal will come true. And it expands your mind. So, John, I want to give you a piece of advice to hand off to your wife. And my wife and I are in business together. I absolutely love being in business with her. And I would urge you to sit down. You bring the structure to the game. So say to her, next week, we're going to sit down for 20 minutes and we're going to have a business meeting or a goal setting. You call it whatever you want. And go through the goals. And she's right. She said, why don't you do it with just you and her? And that could be your segue into that, right? Wouldn't that make sense? I mean, she's the one that brought it up. And I would urge you to do that because working as a team like that is like powerful. And my wife and I have been doing that since we got married. Here's one of many my rough I have notepads everywhere. I got too many of them. I'm addicted to them. But this is my just my one sheet for the studio plan, marketing strategies, goals that I had sketched out, and we had a meeting 2 weeks ago. We have them all the time. Sometimes we have them impromptu. We'll just be driving and we'll just talk about it. And I remember back in the first year we got married, we had to go to London, Ontario, where my family lives. So we do these trips all the time with our baby in the back. And I'd say, look, we're driving. Bring the notepad. Let's talk for a little bit on our marketing strategies for the next year or whatever. We did that over and over and over again, and it's just a really good team, husband and wives. So I would encourage you to do that.
I'll let her know. She probably can hear you. She's in the office editing right now for me.
There you go. Well,
so that's the advantage I have. Is I taught her probably about 11 years ago. I taught her Photoshop. And now she probably knocks me out of the water when it comes to Photoshop. Technical wise, I'm still better than her, I think, like how to physically do things. If she doesn't know how to just do something, she'll ask me and I'll either show her or I'll figure it out on YouTube or something and come back and show her. She likes me to show her. She doesn't want to do it herself. But when it comes to the creativity or just sitting down and physically doing it and making the picture look amazing or not, she blows me out of the water every time. So I let her edit most of my stuff.
So you guys work well together.
Yeah.
I look at Danny Rabela and his wife. They've been so tight as a team since I first met him, 2006, Danny? Always admired what you and Diane have going on. And, you guys, I've always thought that one of the best business setups was a traditional old-fashioned mom and pop husband and wife studio. It's really hard to have a business partner. It works, but it's hard. Usually something fails. But, you have like Walt Disney and his brother Roy Disney. A lot of people don't know about Roy Disney, who was really the backbone. And you look at Steve Jobs, he had Steve Wozniak. He would have never gotten ahead without Wozniak. And what's his name? The richest man in the world right now. He started the not the mutual funds, the stock. He plays.
I think I know what you're talking about. The guy with the long hair.
No. He's very old fashioned. I think he's in Nebraska. Come on, somebody tell me. Anyways, he has a business partner. Charlie Munger is his business partner. Anyways, these partnerships teams will work in cases like that, but you have to have sort of like opposite strengths. You got to bring, my wife and I couldn't be more opposite. But I've always said I'm like the sails on the sailboat. My wife is like the keel.
Yeah.
So maybe with you, John, you're the keel and she's the sail. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You got a sailboat and you got a direction going, and you got to have an accountability system in place. And one of the best ways is to sit down across from the kitchen table over lunch and have a talk about it and say, hey, is this working out for us? Let's measure. What do we want to achieve? And if it didn't work, it's fine. What do we need to do now? And then work from there. And an accountability system like that is absolutely amazing, don't you think?
Yeah, I think on a personal level, we're both pretty similar, but with Colleen and I, but when it comes to business, we're like a yin and yang type of thing, because I'm the big city mentality coming from Toronto, living most of my life in Toronto and a couple years in Edmonton with big cities. And then she's grown up in the small town here in the Valley, so she's more small town. So bringing my big city values and business practices to the Valley, she's had to shut them down a bit, say, no, you're not going to be able to get away with that here, or vice versa. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do it anyways and see what happens. So she's almost like she's like she's the fisherman and I'm the line, and she gives me that little line after a while, and then sometimes she tries to reel it back in again and says, no, you can't do that. So we got that little, but together it makes it work. So
yeah, it's a good metaphor. It's like my sailboat metaphor. First year my wife and I got married, we started dating in June. I proposed in November. We got married in February. Next summer we had a baby, and she quit her job, and we started going to these association meetings. And I remember one of the first ones we went to, the guy who was the presenter, who was a husband and wife, and they said they dedicated a whole hour to doing personality profiles so you could better understand yourself, better understand your clients. And so we did them. And my wife and I were opposite ends of the quadrant.
Yeah.
You got 4 quadrants, and then you position yourself in the quadrant. I was at one end. We couldn't have been more opposite, but I think that's a good thing. That's personality. It's good to have opposite personalities, but you got to have, in my opinion, you got to have the same values.
Yes.
You have to have the same philosophy, which my wife and I do. And one thing my wife is, and I've always said this, on our first date, I asked her if she wanted to go out for nachos, and she said, yeah. And then my next question sealed the deal. I said, can I pick you up on my motorcycle? And she went, yeah. And she loves the motorcycle, which tells me she loves adventure. She's very, very open to adventure. And I think you got to be to put up with the likes of me. And but anyways, So anybody else have anything to tell us about where their goals are and or what they're going to put out there for us to make themselves accountable? Or if you have a story that you want to share with us, or John, if you have another story to add to that, I like that fishing metaphor.
Yeah, like I'm the fish and she's the rod, but it's I just find I had to learn certain restraints being in the Valley, and I guess she's taught me that way.
Right.
I'm always the optimist, and she's the total pessimist. So I'm always like, we're going to make this much this year, and I'm going to do this, and we're going to end up doing the floor this year, and we're going to do that. And she's like, okay, show me the money and how you're going to do it. And she's always the show me the money person. It's like, okay, show me first. Before I believe it, show me. Whereas I'm the one that's always coming up with the ideas and thinking of how we're going to do it and I don't think of how we're going to do it. I'm just saying we're going to do this. And then she's like, yeah, okay, prove it. So she's always that pessimist in a way, and I'm the optimist. So like I said, I think you need that, because if you just have yes men working for you, or yes women, people that just agree with everything you do, you're never going to grow. You're never going to be held accountable because everybody's just saying, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do it. But sometimes you need that voice of reason, I think, to say, you know what? It's nice that you have that ambition, but you're going to have to put a plan together. Show me how you're going to do it, because right now, the way we are, there's no way we're going to be able to do that. And it could be a financial thing. It could be a physical thing. Like maybe, okay, you want to do this in the studio, but you don't have the space in here to do that. How are you going to do that? Like even for our podcast like that. Like right now, I'm in my studio in the back room here. But if it was up to me, I would love to build some sort of a room, just a small 10 by 10, whatever, that I can use just for podcasting. Stuff on the walls, things like that, and let's just do a podcast. I want to like doing this one. I have a friend of mine that wants to do another podcast, things like that. Of course, I don't have the space to do that. She's like, yeah, okay, show me where you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it.
Show me the money. She's the Jerry Maguire.
With accountability there too, because you say you're going to do stuff, you got to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to have that kind of a partnership going. So if you don't have that kind of a thing going and you're on your own, like Maria is on her own. Well, I think she's got a pretty serious guy that she's possibly going to marry at some point. I think she mentioned that.
They are married.
Did they get married?
Maybe they're not. I don't know.
But anyways, my point being, I think he was in the military and possibly retiring. But my point is this. Maria's running her studio by herself. And there's a lot of people like her. She's got the and Maggie. I'm going to put Maggie in there. John Rashford from Sydney, crazy busy photographer, working on his own. Who's that? Hark is, well, he's got a wife. I don't think she's helping him too much.
No, I don't know if she is or not. He's got that new studio though.
And so there's different. You don't have the advantage of what John and I are talking about with a spouse. And I always thought that the photography industry was ideally suited for a mom and dad sort of partnership. Doesn't mean you can. Well, sorry, I forgot about Dan Morency. He's working all on his own too. So the unique strategies for people who are working on their own. I think you got to give it a little bit of an extra push in order to get your goals working for you and have your plans. You got to be a little more disciplined. Self-disciplined. So, I'd love to talk about that specific thing, and let's put a pin on that. Why don't we? Let's bring that question up later on when we get Maria on, when we get Dan Morency on one of these live streams, because I think it's a worthy question to bring up over and over again, because it's all got to do with accountability and goals.
Especially with Maria, what I find fascinating with her is the fact that she was running her very successful studio back in Pittsburgh area, doing very well, and just because she needed a change, she decided just to get up and move, and she got up and moved right out of the state, all the way down, is it like South Carolina, I think it is, or North Carolina, one of the Carolinas, and just reopened up under a new name, basically. I think it was named after her grandfather or something like that, and just started from fresh. And now she's still one of the high-end, top-paying studios in the area. She's not like those little $100 shoot and burner type things. She said, no, I'm going to go and I'm going to go full tilt, and she's doing fantastic.
She was highly motivated, highly motivated. Yeah, I got to say, though, she went through some rough patches in life. And she came up to Toronto 2013 and was one of the presenters at the Inferno, and she was just pulling out of this hard time that she was been through. And I think when you go through hard times and you come through the other end, you're all scarred and battle wounded, and you're surviving. I think it renews your energy, and it refreshes your outlook, and it gives you a stronger resolve to carry on with your goals.
Definitely.
And you get finely tuned on goals. I've known guys who are working full time and their businesses, they're in photography, but it sort of wanes and sort of starts to fall to the wayside. And I always say it's the same thing. It's the golden handcuffs.
Yeah.
And people laugh when they hear that. It's golden handcuffs. Their jobs are holding them back.
It's true.
I'm not saying quit your job. That's not what I'm saying. So Randy says,
be one of those.
Randy's saying my goal is to hang out with my wife who just came home from lunch, so he'll come back later. So if anybody has anything to comment, we'll even can we throw anybody in live, or if you want
I can throw come in live. If they want to come on live, they just let me know. I send them that same link I sent you, and they'll come in. But I don't know who's watching us right now. So if you're watching, let us know down there. I think Hark just signed in, so I know Hark's watching.
Danny's here. Dan Morency's here. Randy's
some of them have logged in and out and that. So some are here, some are not.
Yeah.
So it depends who's all here. But no, I was one of those people, like you said, with the golden handcuffs, because up until I opened this studio, I shouldn't say this actual. Dan Morency's still watching. Up until I got my other studio, which was downtown there, down by where I took you to dinner. That was 2015. I never had my own physical commercial studio space. It was always out of my house part-time because I was too afraid to just go full-time because I didn't know if I would be able to make it. And so I worked the fiberboard plant here, 12-hour shifts, that continental shift work. I worked warehouse work. I worked as a camera salesman for like 3 years when I lived in Edmonton. I worked at the bodybuilding magazine Muscle Mag for 9.5 years doing this on the side. I was always afraid to make that extra step to go full time.
Right.
And it was actually pushed on me when I got laid off at the fiberboard plant here in town. I'd never collected EI in my life. I was in my 30s and I said, you know what, I'm going to try it and we'll go for the next 6-8 months, whatever they give me for EI, and let's try and build the business up. We'll do it full time while we're on EI. And then as my EI kicked off, that was 09, I get July of 09. I just told the government, you know what, we're going full time. This is my job now. And back, that's 11 years ago. And here I am with my own studio space, because my last one I shared with some other guys.
Yeah.
Here's my own studio space, and we're able to make it work. We've been here, when October passed, it was 2 years that we were open to the public in this space. So we're going strong. So even during the lockdown, we haven't had to worry about it. We're still going pretty good. So
you're happy you got out of the shared studio space scenario?
Yes. Like, it was good in some ways. I'm still friends with one of the guys. The other guy, we kind of hit heads all the time.
Yeah.
But overall, it was hard because the idea was great. We all had our own basement studios. We wanted to get out. And we found a mutual space that we were able to share the space, share our equipment, and just share the rent 3 ways. And then what we did was we used a Google Calendar that we were all part of. And we just, if you booked a family shoot from this time, you put in the Google Calendar, John Butler family shoot from this time to this time. So they knew, okay, the studio's booked at that time. I can't book anybody during that time. So it did work in a way, but there was always certain things that you would hit heads on, or ideas of how you wanted the studio to go, or what you wanted to get into the studio, and what kind of new products for the studio, or how you want the studio to look. There's always that hitting heads. And when you got, it's one thing when you have a partner, but when you have 2 partners, it just wasn't working. It was time for me to leave, and I went back home for like 8 months. There was a lot of good things that came out of it, but there was also the negative stuff too. And I'm the type that I don't like dwelling on negative too much. So I just had to leave. They wanted me gone, and I was ready to leave. So we did. It was a mutual agreement.
They kicked you out of the band.
They basically kicked me out of the band, and I was ready to go. Although at the time I was so pissed off. It was not. I wasn't ready to go on my own. It was more of the just the idea that, like, how dare they kick me out type of thing. And want to go on there.
It hurt, right?
And after that meeting, I came home and I looked at Colleen and I said, you know what? I think I'm done with photography. I'm quitting altogether. I'm just done. And I was that kind of emotional. She's like, you know what? Just sit down, relax. You'll be fine. And then we brought it back home. Ended up doing shoots out of my living room for a couple months. And then, boom, this space landed in my lap. And it just rejuvenated that passion again. So,
yeah, and it's the perfect space, I got to say.
Yeah, for me it is. So, and I just freshly painted my psych wall 2 days ago, so it's good to go. It's all pure white again.
That space has got high traffic in front, and everybody knows you're there. So so that kind of was a serendipitous thing. It just kind of fell into your lap when you were at your lowest moment, ready to give up, and your wife sort of gave you a few words and encouragement.
Definitely.
She helped in a big way.
She did. She knows what photography is to me. And so whenever I get to the point where I'm just like really frustrated, that's when she sort of takes the lead and says, you know what, things are going to work out. Don't worry. Like, even when the first lockdown and we went for 3 months with nothing coming in, yeah, we were getting that government funding, but at the same time, I'm like, you know what? If this goes much longer, I mean, how? She's like, don't worry, we always find a way to make it work. It's going to work.
Yeah,
and I mean,
that's pretty optimistic.
Sorry,
that's pretty optimistic.
Yeah, which was surprising because I'm usually the optimist. So
that's what I'm going to say. But yeah, interesting.
But whenever I get down in those little, I don't want to say depressed days because I'm not a very depressive type of person. I get times where I just get down, and like everybody does. Nobody can say they don't have those. But that's when she sort of reverses the role and she becomes the optimist a little bit. And she's like, "Don't worry, things are going to work out. We always do," and blah blah blah. Because I'm always thinking in the back of my head, it's not just the photography business, but because it's not just the photography, you're now a business owner. You start thinking about, okay, I got a wife, I got 2 daughters, I've got to keep a roof over our head, food on the table. It's not all just about what fancy equipment I can get and this and that. But so whenever that's when I start getting the little, I'm looking at the numbers for that month or something. I'm like, you know what, we got to pick these out. She's like, don't worry, things will always work out. And then boom, the next month we'll go and have like a record month or something like that. It always turns around and works out. So
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I've noticed that, especially when I got married and start working as a partner. What you just described, it always works out. I mean, it's easy to go down the dark road and let it. I mean, but I think if you're living right and you're making a lot of right decisions, you have a little dose of optimism and you support one another, something will show up. So, I don't know. I have a deep question I'm going to ask you later. For fun.
And I see Hark's back on again.
Hark's here.
Hark's here.
Hark, we were just talking about you 20 minutes ago, and we were just commenting about how handsome you are, and we all have a studio envy too. We're envious of your looks in your studio, and we were talking about accountability. If anybody who wants to chime in here, let us know. Otherwise, we're just going to keep talking. I've made some notes too. I can sort of start going through those at any point in time just to kind of fill in maybe nobody will chime in. I'm not sure, but I think what we're talking about is still pretty valuable.
Yeah.
So,
Archie said, haha, you guys are funny.
Hey, we speak the truth. Hark, sorry. No, let me just bring up a couple points. I was making some notes in preparation of this conversation. I find accountability or anything to do with like success principles to be one of the least attractive and the least desirable topics to get into because we just, we'd rather talk photography and tech and fancy new pieces of equipment or Photoshop strategies, yada, yada, yada. So I'm going to go through my list, John. Interrupt me at any point in time and tell me to shut up. So the first thing I'll put down, and I think this is really kind of intriguing that it's exactly what we were talking about. I made a note here and I put down self-awareness. So because on our own, we are pretty much unreliable. So unreliable, on our own versus having an accountability process. And that process could be, I made a list here. It could be external. So you could have a boss. That could be your accountability partner. Well, a lot of people I know have their bosses, and oftentimes I hear them complain. But anyways, it's still it gets things done. You show up at your job and you got to get XYZ done by so and so, and your boss is looking over your shoulders. I mean, that's not a lot of fun to me, but it's a legitimate accountability. Yeah. A partner. I put down partner here. We talked about that. Having an agenda, I believe, is important. For me, anyways, it's been absolutely vital because I'm such an airhead and a scatterbrain. Do you remember? I think it was Daytimers. They had beautiful Daytimers, and I bought a nice leather one back in the 90s. I spent a lot of money on it. And every year you would get the new inserts for each month. And I don't think they're as popular anymore. No. But the company was called Daytimers Inc.
Yep, it's called Daytimers, yeah. I think some people still get them, actually.
And I valued that more than anything. And I had a nice leather one. Yep. And that to me said how much I valued my agenda because my agenda was my life. And I use Google now, Google Calendar.
That's what I use, Google Calendar.
And I absolutely love it. But it's the same idea. If I got something I got to do, I put it down. So, for example, John, your wife was saying, you were saying that you guys tend to procrastinate having accountability meetings, business meetings, strategy meetings. Put it in day timer. You know, what I'll do sometimes is I'll tell my wife, hey, I tell you what, I'm going to take you out for lunch and we're going to have a meeting. She's not going to say no to that.
No.
Have an agenda. Having an authority. So these are in random order, by the way. So like having a sensei, if you are, or if you're in a sporting team, you have a coach. Those are authority figures and they're masters. They know what they're doing. So having that kind of accountability, or like your coaching lady that your coach that you had your first meeting with, that's a perfectly good example of somebody who's in authority, and she's going to look over your shoulders and kick you in the butt and make sure you stay focused. The only problem with that, John, is you did a deal with her. You're not really paying a lot of money. If you paid her thousands of dollars, which is probably what she's worth, in your mind, your accountability, your compliance is going to skyrocket. So you have to be aware of that. So it's easy to let it slide. Well, I'm not paying her. So the other thing I wrote down here is any system or any process that forces you to be accountable. So, because on our own, we're not reliable. So that's some of the externals. I don't know if you have any that you want to add to that.
Well, my wife's good for me for accountability on certain things. Like when it comes to the business, she's always harking on me. Harking, that's funny because Hark's here. She's always harking on me to get certain things done. I'm the biggest not procrastinator. I shouldn't say that. I'm the biggest being distracted. I'm very easy getting distracted because I want to watch podcasts. I want to watch my creative live videos. I'm always trying to improve my creative side, my photography side.
Right.
Whereas it's like, well, did you charge this person's credit card for that order that they ordered, or did you get that order done when the ones I was editing? She's like, did you get that order done? Because it's got to get done. And I'm very good at putting things. Oh, I'll get to that in a few minutes. I'll do it in a few minutes. I'm just finishing this up. A few minutes go by, an hour goes by. She's like, did you do that? What I asked you to earlier? I was like, nah, shoot, because I'm older now. I mean, I'm getting older in that, but she's very good at reminding me. I guess that's the word I should use. Reminding me of getting certain things done. So she says she's the boss here. Even though my name's on the big sign out front, if you go to Facebook and you look under my wife's profile, it'll say as her occupation, boss at John A. Butler Photography. So.
Studio boss. I got the same scenario going on here. So
between her and my friend Jody, that the life coach, they both are basically, they'll kick me in the butt because Colleen will kick me in the butt on a daily basis on just keeping my focus. I guess that's the word I was looking for. Focus, staying focused at the task that has to be done. And then Jody will be on the external side, making sure that the stuff that I put on my list here is going to be followed and putting practices into place to make it work. So,
yeah, good one.
Yeah.
Focus. It's hard.
Well, that's the best way to describe accountability is focus. You got to have focus in order to be accountable.
Yeah. And that takes discipline, self-discipline. And nobody wants to talk about that because I want the easy road. It's kind of a dog chasing its own tail, and you're sort of, you're if you're aware of it, and if you realize that key point you just brought up, and you say, okay, I am going to really push myself to focus. You're going to put yourself in a higher category than all your competitors there. And because most people are not inclined to do that. So they want the easy way. They want the fast way, or I'll do it next week, or I won't do it at all.
Exactly.
Or I'll spend $10,000 on a new camera system, and then it's all going to work out.
Yep.
Or something crazy like that, a distraction.
Definitely. I see Hark can relate, he says. Maybe, I don't know, Hark, if you have a webcam or anything, if you're anywhere near Hark webcam, we can bring you in on here and you can give us some ideas of your own.
So the other thing, while you're doing that, I want to talk about accountability for a bit and just finish off with that thought. And according to my notes, I put the other forces that the process that can play on us. It's I just mentioned external processes. Now I'm going to bring up our consciousness, stuff that's inside of us. So sometimes we're guilty. We feel guilty. So we're driven because of guilt. I suppose that's okay, as long as it's not keeping us from growing. Sometimes we do something like, oh shit, I should have done that last month. I feel bad. I let my wife down or whatever. You feel a bit guilty. I put down here desire for something bigger. I think that's a big one. That's a really, really big one. And in the book, Think and Grow Rich, the very first chapter, one of the key principles is desire. So desire for something bigger. What is it that you desire? And this is a big one for many, many people. I certainly struggled with it many, many times in my life. Everything flipped for me in 1991. And I think a large part of what was holding me back was a feeling of shame and lack of self-esteem and lack of self-worth. In spite of the fact that if you knew me back then, you'd be, Rob's, he's a nice dressing guy. He's got a decent car and a nice big studio. He's probably doing well, but it was all a ruse. I had a long ways to go. So this is stuff to be aware of, guys. This is stuff to be aware of. I put down stress as an internal thing too. We get stressed out. That's not always good. Stress can be good, but it can not be good. So we got to be very aware of that. The other two things I wrote down here are mastermind meetings are very, very valuable. And we talked about that. This is technically what we're doing now. And having one with your coach and or your wife. I asked a good buddy of mine last November if he wanted to be my accountability partner. And we got together in December for 3 hours and just started hammering out our goals. I said, we got to go minimum 3 hours. And the time flew by like that. And I could have easily done it on my own and worked with my wife, but I just on a whim, because I kind of thought he would really like that too. And he jumped on it right away. So mastermind meetings are really, really valuable. Having desire, having discipline, having self-discipline, and being honest and having accurate thinking. So when I say accurate thinking, that's a Napoleon Hill principle too. And let me just give you a quick example. I mentioned it a minute ago. My business is struggling or I have big ambitions. Therefore, I'm going to go buy a new $10,000 camera system. That is not accurate thinking. Okay. That's a distraction. So some of the, I have some more thoughts here, but John, do you want to chime in with anything?
No, I think you're doing awesome there. Because I'm that guy who I had a lot of ambitions this year when it came to equipment. I was hoping to update some of my lighting equipment, some of my camera. I want to update my camera, but as soon as the lockdown hit, what can you do? I want to get my floors redone. There's a lot of stuff, and I'm the type I usually, especially camera gear, I use camera gear till the PC falls off. To me, I don't care what I'm using. I don't need the newest of everything.
You wear it out.
I wear it out, basically. Like I said, I told you just before we went on live that for Christmas, my wife got me some new pocket wizards because I've been waiting for years to buy them. And it's like, I had these cactus ones that did me well. I got 2 for $100 and I had like a whole bunch of them at the time. And even when you came to shoot the fairies, you ended up changing from mine to yours. It just seemed to be, I just found that mine was not working as well as I hoped. And boom, in my Christmas gift, they were there. Even though they were in my cart, I was ready to buy them. She bought them for me instead. So
that's cheating, by the way. She owes you a legitimate, not studio expense Christmas gift.
That's okay, because I probably would have bought them. I'm always the type. Lately, I've been more in the last 6 months. It's like, okay, I need to get some of this. She's like, well, we'll have to hold off for a second because we need this or that first, or for the house and that. But before, it was always the buy it and tell her later, because it was always easier to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission type of thing. So
I worked by that principle at times, and discretion is the best way to. So John, I'm going to finish off my thoughts here from my notes. Okay. And while I'm doing that, I want you to send somebody a link. I'm not sure who it is.
That was Hark, and I sent it to him. I'm just waiting for him to click on it.
Let me just finish my thoughts. I got some concluding finishing thoughts on what I was talking about earlier. So one of the things I mentioned is resistance to change. We are resistant. We are resistant to change. We can be motivated to change, but the initial reaction, at least, is many times it's resistance because we're comfortable with what we got. But the big one to me is fear and inconvenience or laziness. So something to think about. I put down here wandering attention. We have that. I mean, especially in today's day and age.
That's me.
So being able to focus, being able to concentrate, having a system. So Even if you're working on yourself, you got to sit down and have a serious talk with yourself, and better to have an accountability partner. The more complex things are, the more it's easy to wander in our attention and get off topic. So I put down here wishful listening. That means we hear only what we want to hear.
Yeah.
So we have these filters. Sometimes they're personal demons or personal biases. We got to be very smart about this and look at what it is we hear and want to hear. And sometimes we don't want to hear what needs to be heard. And if you can do that, you're going to lead yourself in the right direction. I've always said this: being in your own business is the best self-help program in the world. I've always felt that. And basically, it sounds like I'm talking self-help here. The other one is jumping to conclusions, being impatient. I'm going to put that jumping to conclusions in accurate thinking. It's important to have accurate thinking so you don't jump to conclusions. Habitual negative thinking. This is natural. We are naturally, by nature, as humans, predisposed to be negative. And it has a lot to do with our survival instinct, and it's in our DNA. So it's best resisted with goals, everything John and I are talking about, having plans, prayer, meditate, have visuals around you. You'll notice around my studio here, and I have these at home too, by the way. I have all kinds of affirmations and stuff like that. And, let me tell you a quick story. My cousin Mark, who's the same age as I, was telling me when him and his wife got married. He was married at 23. He got married young. But him and his wife had a corkboard in their bedroom, and all their bills went on the corkboard until he realized, my God, what a stupid move. Constantly being reminded about your bills. So he realized that was a mistake. Put those bills in a cupboard somewhere and put goals and affirmations. And for many, 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 many years, I've been applying this in my life, and in my bedroom too. I've got my list of under earners. And I put that one in the forum. I don't know if you've seen that one. That list from that book, Earn What You Deserve, one of the best books I've ever read in my life. In the early 90s, I read it, and I typed out this list, and I had it bound in plastic. What do you call that when you laminate it?
Laminate, yep.
Yeah, and I had that it's now in my office, but I had it in my bedroom. So, so these are visuals.
Logged in too, if you want me to bring them in.
Okay, well, hold on. I'm going to finish here. First of all, I think I'm going to accountability, jumping to conclude, a negative thing, a plan, meditate, visual, mastermind meetings, most of all, accountability. Notepads, future goals. I mentioned future goals. This is an idea right here. Check this out. New Year's idea. Write a letter to yourself that will be opened at the end of the year. And you talk about all the stuff you've achieved. That's a really good, that's called future goals. Yeah. So you're shooting yourself into the future and you're writing a letter like as if it already happened.
Like those little time capsule things.
Yeah. And you read it in a year from now.
Yep.
That's a really powerful accountability strategy, in my opinion.
I can see that.
So Hark wants in?
Yeah, I've got him right here. We'll bring him right on.
There he is.
There he is.
There he is. The stud.
Now, if you've got your Facebook still running, you might want to turn the volume off your Facebook.
I figured that out.
Seconds later.
Can you guys hear me? Or
yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So I like your setup there. It's very nice.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. It's one of those things I set up in COVID time, and I figured why not set up my whole studio, and it's I've been actually using it a lot in Zoom. So and mainly I got it for sound because my sound was terrible before this, and I see that you guys got the nice little microphone, so I had to join you guys.
I was telling Rob I did a little trick, and that's why I got the foam piece on my microphone, because I found in this room I got a lot of echo. So I actually have gaffer's tape on the one side of the microphone to block, because it's one of those omnidirectional ones, and I think I got rid of most of the echo. So
I have the same issue with the studio because of the high ceiling. You probably, do you have a high ceiling in your studio?
No, mine's about 8 feet.
Yeah, I get a lot of echo in my studio, man.
Right. So, but you got a high ceiling studio. I tell you, I love that. I wish I had. Since we did that lighting mastermind, I've been looking at mine and trying to find, because I got 9, almost 10 feet ceilings, and I have a rail system, with the springy thing.
Right.
And I tried to mimic what you did in yours.
Yeah.
Not enough height.
Yeah, you really do need a little bit of height for that. And ever since I started using that light, like now it's like my default go-to.
It's
I
beautiful
can't
lighting.
get away from it.
So what do you got to say to yourself about, what do you got to say about yourself regarding goals? Did you catch most of what we were talking about? Did it inspire you to bring up something? Obviously you're with us now.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to put out there for the rest of the world to?
No, for sure. I mean, in terms of goals, I mean, my wife and I, we, instead of being goals, we call it like intentions. What are our intentions for 2021? Whether it's financial, whether it's health, whether it's relationships, family, all of that. It's intentions as opposed to goals. And so far, like for the last few years that we've been doing them, we've been, at least I've been pleasantly surprised that we go around towards the end of the year and we go back and say, where are we? And typically we've been hitting those marks. Given last year, even though in 2020, the financial targets, obviously, it did not... I don't think most of us, at least in the Canadian side, ended up hitting our financial target. Some of them did very well, but for me, a lot of my corporate, a lot of my sports work was basically non-existent. But I wasn't discouraged by it. We did well in other areas. So for 2021, my goal is to grow my corporate personal branding and headshot business by at least 150%. It's an area that I definitely want to target and definitely want to market 2021. And if I can hopefully maintain my sports and the corporate work that I'm already doing, I should be okay.
That's awesome. That's the whole COVID thing changed, real game changer, right? But you survived. And just for the record, and I'm not saying this for any other reason, we had our best year ever, ironically. So I guess it depends on the market, and what held us through was the ferries. They just shot through the roof.
Yeah.
I was talking to John Rashford. I sent him a text 2 days ago. I do this all the time. I send people texts. Hey, how you doing? Checking in. I sent Maggie one. I sent John one.
Yeah.
And I know, like, Randy, who does sports, he changed. And it sounds to me like you did the same thing, right? You sort of got into, was that by purpose, or was that, sort of a serendipitous? And by the way, intentions, same thing. But I love that you said that. It's the same thing as a goal. They call it an intention. But you're sort of applying the same strategies that we're talking about. So anyways, back to my question. Was that a serendipitous thing, or was it something you said, hey, I see an opportunity here, let's go for it in these trying times?
No, I felt this was a growing area. I think, John, you probably saw that yourself. Being in the Toronto region or we're in the GTA, my studios in Stouffville, we got locked down a couple of times. So like we went through, what was it, the red zone and all of that. Some of the other areas were still open, but we couldn't do anything in the studio. So for me, it was time to think about what are the areas that I can actually do some of the things. So commercial photography was still allowed. So that allowed us to, like, we can get any families or anybody else into the studio. We wanted to do a lot of ferries this year, and we weren't able to do anything. So, like, we had to figure something out too. So I had a lot of my corporate clients that were reaching out, and they either needed to do sort of like virtual town halls, virtual webinars, whatever that was required. I picked that up. So you had to do whatever you needed to do to pay the bills. And luckily for us, we are in a decent financial condition that we could weather the storm. And I wasn't a panic situation, but definitely it was a year that we thought we were going to hit it out of the park. And here we are in 2021, and in even a state of emergency now. So nobody can bring anybody in.
Are you optimistic for the future?
Oh, for sure. I'm always an optimist. I'm not brought down by anything, really. I think we're going to come back better than ever. People do realize what's important to them. I find even for the times that we were open to do the family sessions in the studio, the sales were a lot higher than what they would have been in the past. I don't know if you guys noticed that. People were spending. I don't know whether that was to counteract the fact that they weren't spending anywhere else and they needed to spend somewhere. And this worked out great. So
that's probably a big part of it. And the fact that they just value
the big thing about that too. He said a lot of photographers are going to probably go in as soon as the COVID was lockdowns were done. People are going to try to get the business and try and lower their pricing. He's like, don't do that. He goes, people have the money, they'll spend it.
They will.
And I noticed that the people were not hesitating to spend, and they were spending handsomely. So I think we're all in a yes, we're locked down. There's a lot of going on right now, but I think we're in a very, very good business to target our core clientele and even repeat clients that typically would shy away from coming back the year after. But now we're gonna see a lot of those clients come back. So,
well, that's good news. I'm glad you feel that way. I feel the same way too, but I'd never want to sit on my laurels or expect I don't want to, I have moments where I get a little stressed out about the whole thing because I don't do well with being told you can't go to work. And so I had to reconcile that, which I did. Yeah. And it's all good. And just got to wait it out. It takes patience. And in my mind, I always think, okay, what if, I feel bad for these guys in the restaurant business.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, there's closing them by the thousands. But I always think in my mind, okay, if photography failed, what would I do? What would be the other thing I would do? And I'm not saying that I would pursue those, but I spend a certain amount of my time coming up with, okay, because it's a backup plan.
Which is a smart thing to have. I mean, I even for me, going back to my corporate roots, if I ever had to go back, I would consider that. I mean, when you have a family, when you have commitments, you want to meet those commitments. And I don't think there's anybody around us in our circles, at least that I know, that would just sit by and not do anything. So I think we will do whatever is required. When I left my corporate job, and I was talking to my wife at the time, and we were there was nothing going on. This is back I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, Rob, when I first contacted about the ferries that we started doing. And at that time, the sessions were few and far in between, and we were sitting from somebody who used to bring in a multi six-figure income into the family and paying those bills. We sat down and think, and I assured her, whatever is required, even if I have to go find a job at McDonald's to pay the bills, I would do it, but I will still continue go on the same path that I'm doing right now. So for me, it was never a question about, there's always a way to make money, Rob. There's always a way to make money. That's one thing I've learned. When I was earning that much money, there was always that singular focus in your mind that was the only source of income for you. I feel more free now than I ever did working in that corporate job, ever. I never felt secure. I never felt, even though there's all this uncertainty, holy smokes, there's COVID, that we're not going to be able to open up the studio. How are we going to do this? I feel more in charge of my own destiny, in charge of my peace of mind. I don't have to ever worry about any of that ever since I've sort of taken this step. And I'm glad that I did. And I wish I had done it sooner, 15 years sooner.
Okay. Well, on that point, let me ask you this, because I know what you're saying. That's a really good feeling. And that's I wouldn't give that up for anything. But were you always that way, or did you go through some of the trying times when you just, I don't know if I made the right move, and I struggle? I
don't think there was ever a point that came about that in my mind that I thought, maybe I made the wrong decision. I mean, there might have been doubts in terms of whether I would be able to achieve the success that I was. When I mean success, I didn't mean everything else that came along with when I left my job. At that time, success to me was making that amount of money that I was earning in corporate world. And when I hit that mark and I actually surpassed that mark, at that time I thought, woohoo! Yeah, that's exactly it. Why was I doubting it? Why was I doubting that part? So I think from that standpoint of view, I came to the realization that it doesn't matter. You can always do better. You can always, as long as you put your mind to it, as long as you go through it methodically and you have a game plan in place and you committed to it. You can't just go be half committed to it. I mean, you saw me. I was trying to do everything. It doesn't matter what it was. I would, whatever stuck. And luckily for me, my corporate sports, it just really took off. So I was really happy to do it. So
shot through the moon, to the roof, man. It was crazy. So were you predisposed and or influenced? And John, this question goes to you too, to being self-employed? Because a lot of people, it's such a different it's such a bizarre planet to go plant your flag on, and that sort of wheelhouse, that mentality, that mindset it doesn't fit well with a lot of people, versus say, no, I like the security of being in a job. So, but you got to have somewhat of an entrepreneurial drive to be in this business. John, you go. Sorry. Hark, you go first. John, you go second.
I mean, for me, I'm a son of first generation immigrants, so I knew the hard work that my mom and dad. They weren't entrepreneurs. They just they did labor jobs, and they got hard. Where they were. They worked very, very hard to put us through university. Both me and my sister. I was 13 when we moved to Canada, and for us, I saw the hard work. They did double jobs. I remember the days when they were paying 17, 18%, 20% interest on the house mortgage, which is crazy. And I feel like we have it so easy these days, like paying 2%, 3% in mortgage. I mean, those were the hard days. So for me, it was always about go to university, get your education, get a good job. That was success. So for me, it was never about being an entrepreneur. Although my dad later on in his career, he did leave his job. He got sick. He did start a small trucking company, which I helped him with. Maybe that had little part to do with, maybe I did the bookkeeping, accounting, the managerial side of things. So I saw
that in him. You saw that.
I saw a little bit of that.
That's powerful.
But I never had somebody that modeled it for me, like being an entrepreneur. And so when I finished my university, got into a good paying job, and I stayed with that company for a very long time. And for me, that was success. I had achieved the goal. That was it. And it's only after my son was born and he was 6, 7, that I started missing a lot of his things, like sports or even his class events. Then I realized I'm spending all this time traveling around the globe. Yes, it's great. It's paying well. But at the end of the day, for me, my dad was always there, and I want to make sure I was there for my son. I realized that I need to do something different than take charge of my own time. And for me, I couldn't really figure out what I wanted. Actually, in fact, I love to cook. I worked part-time in a restaurant and throughout school and university. So I thought maybe I'll just open up a restaurant. I'll do something. Right. I looked into getting a food truck, believe it or not, and because I wanted to do something different. But then I realized any of those, it's still going to be, I'm going to be married to it. I'm probably going to be away more than if I went to something like that, then I'm traveling around with my corporate job, and I probably won't earn as much money. So I needed to find something where I can actually control my own time. And that's sort of photography came about. I always was interested in it. That's how I went into it. There was no grand plan and being an entrepreneur or anything. So, but that's basically how I started.
I think you had entrepreneurial yearnings, especially when you wanted what you're trying to say, I believe, is you wanted the freedom and quality of life. So, John, what do you got to? We got to close up in about 5 minutes. We're over the hour now, so I just want to let John chime in here before we do that, because these generally go about an hour, although it could probably go. Oh, by the way, Hark, I got a question for you.
Sure.
You're on my list. You're on our list. Are you willing to come back on one of these live streams as well?
Yeah, for sure. No, you guys are doing great. I'd be happy to. It's not like I've got anywhere else to go. So.
Well, if things change when they do, and you do have a busy schedule, we will forgive you and we'll work with your agenda at that time.
I'm happy to do any time, Rob. And for you guys, you've done a lot. You were one of those models. I don't mean model, but you were one of the models that had achieved success in the photography world. So when I was searching for somebody, you were one of the guys that guided me through it, and it was one of the very first successes that I had with my photography. It was the fairies, and so you've got a lot. I have got a lot to thank you for providing that guidance.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, John, I took time away from you, man.
So, but I can also add on to like he was saying, because in a way, I was kind of different than Hart growing up, but also the same. Like I always had, I guess, when I was in my early 20s, I always wanted my own business. I wanted to be my own boss. And at that time, I was just getting into photography. I didn't get into photography till probably 20 years old, I guess. And so I was a late bloomer in photography compared to some people. But I was like Hark in a way that my parents were hard workers. My dad was a mailman for over 30 years, working. He'd be up at 5:30 in the morning to go to work for 6 or 6:30, and he'd be out till he did business routes. So he'd be out till like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon sometimes, working all day, come home, have a nap for about an hour before dinner, and then get up and watch TV, go to bed, and did it all again the next day. But he also was one of the ones that would be the one that would coach our hockey teams and coach our soccer teams and referee hockey. So he was always busy, things like that. And then you have my mom, who would take on other jobs. So she worked warehouse work for a while. She worked almost in a grocery store as a manager in the hot food section for like 30, 40 years, just retired a few years back. They were always hard workers, make sure we had a roof over our head, clothes on. I had 3 brothers. We didn't have a lot of money. So the way it was. So you'd, like Hark said, you see your parents and the hard work that they put in and what they do for their families just to make sure everybody's taken care of. And so I also, because of that hard work, I didn't want to be one of those that was working slave work for making somebody else money, basically. Because that's what you do when you're working for somebody else. You're getting your minimum wage or your paycheck, your $15, $20 an hour, whatever you're making, but you're making somebody else money. You're making somebody else rich. And I always wanted to be my own boss and have other people make me rich. But now I find, like he said, I find I am happier. My last job, like I said, at the fiberboard plant before I started my business here, working 12-hour continental shift work. And if people don't know what continental shift work is, you're working like 7 in the morning till 7 at night for maybe 2 days. And then you go home for about a day and a half. Then you're on nights for 3 nights, 7 till 7, and then you do another. It's a 2-week process, and you're basically, your body's taking a whack. You get home, you're tired, you have dinner, you go to bed, you wake up to do it all the next day, and then when you're doing the other one, you're sleeping all day long while everybody's doing everything, and then you wake up an hour before you go to work to have dinner, and then you go to work. So there was really no life, basically, and I wasn't seeing my kids as much as I wanted to grow up, like he said. So it's a matter of, okay, let's do this now. Well, this is the time to do it. We got laid off. And instead of going to get a 9-to-5 job again, I said, let's put the powers in. Let's make this work as a full-time job. Did it for about 8 months while on EI, and then boom, opened up business and said, okay, we're going full-time. And now we are 11 years later, our second commercial studio, because we moved from the other one to here. Right. And we're just happier, and we have a lot more time on our hands. I've went through some branding changes. I used to do like Rob, where I was the Swiss jackknife, I guess you called it, or whatever, or Swiss Army knife. Swiss Army knife. Of the trade, where you're trying to do, like Hark said, everything. You're trying to be a wedding photographer, you're trying to be a family photographer, you're trying to do sports, and it was just too much for me. And I finally sat down about 1.5 years ago and talked to my wife and told her, like, okay, what am I happy shooting? What am I not happy shooting anymore? And unfortunately, weddings came up where I wasn't as happy as I used to be. I, knock on wood, I haven't had any bridezillas or anything. I had awesome clients, and I love doing all their weddings. But it was getting to the point where you wake up in the morning on a Saturday to go do a wedding. You're like, oh, shoot, I got another wedding to do. I'm going to be there all day. And when you start feeling that way, you're losing your passion anymore. Right. So it's like something's got to change. So I rebranded. I was already doing some corporate stuff, but I pushed more on our corporate work. I learned how to do the pinups by Mike Long. And like I've told everybody, I have no Mike Long, that's for sure. But I have fun, and I think I do a good job with what I produce. I learned his style, and that seems to be really taking off right now in this area. I'm starting to get more clients for that. And so I want the corporate, the headshots. I'm getting to be known as the headshot guy in this area. I'm the higher priced one, but I'm still one that most people will come to. And then we got into the sports. And then thanks to Hark, he got me on to this company in the States, their Next Gen. And I actually tried them for the first time during the lockout, because we couldn't do normal team pictures for sports. And we were locked down from March until June. So finally in June, one of the teams I was supposed to shoot back in March, it was a girls hockey team. And they said, like, can we do it now? But we had to bring them into the studio. We had to shoot each girl individually against a white backdrop, leaving your tripod exactly in the same spot, the height, everything. And then from there, you send it to this company and they compile it into a group shot for you. And you would never know that they were shot separately. You would have thought they were all shot together on the ice. So that seems to be the way it's going. I'll probably have to do that with my dance schools after a while. So, I mean, it's the way of you improvise.
You adapt.
And you adapt. So I think that's the route we're going right now is we're looking more corporate headshots, more glamour portraits, more of a portrait studio as opposed to weddings, things like that. So I don't do weddings. I don't do newborns anymore. I recommend another photographer, but I'm trying to get one in here that could be a newborn photographer for me. So I have to say no. But I had to make some drastic changes and say what's going to make me happy. And newborns, 3-hour newborn shoots are not making me happy anymore. And weddings weren't making me happy. So I basically took them out of my repertoire. So I don't do them anymore. And I'm starting to get into seniors now too. So I'm trying to be more of a portrait studio as opposed to the jackknife. So
I was going to say, it's a funny thing, John, like when you get to a point where you're turning down other genres that you don't want to work in. Do you remember like there was a point where you take everything, right? That Yeni phone, that was there. And so, like when you come to a point, you say, well, man, am I ever so blessed that I'm actually turning down work? So it's a great feeling to have, is it not? So
it's a good position to be in. So I've always said, and I've heard other photographers say this too, that this is like the best job in the world. And sometimes I felt guilty. I'm like, oh, this is so sweet. Hold up my finger, click, 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 click.
Yeah.
So, but I got to get running, guys. I got a delivery. I got to get all my deliveries done today because we're in lockdown tonight at midnight. We have a bunch of orders sitting here that my wife has arranged to have me deliver. So
I think weddings actually helped me to turn down work, if that makes sense, because I got to the point in weddings where I wasn't afraid to fire a client.
Right.
Because sometimes there's just some clients that no matter what you can't make them happy. And you knew in the consultations, you're not going to make them happy. So I got to the point where I wasn't afraid to say, I don't think we're a fit. I think maybe I'm going to recommend this person for you. And I think that helped me make the decisions on turning work away, because you don't like to turn work away. But like Hark said, to make yourself happy, sometimes there's just some genres you just don't want to shoot anymore. And I was not as afraid to do it as I was before I started weddings. I would take everything on, like he said.
Nice to have that freedom.
So, but we should let Rob get out of here.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, John.
Yeah, and we're going to get you on here on a future episode for sure.
Yeah, just give me a heads up, and I'd be happy to do it.
Hark, I appreciate you coming on board and sharing some of your deep, deep thoughts. You're not only really smart and handsome, but you're amazing.
you guys are awesome. I checked the mail.
John, you too. Thanks for organizing these. These are really exciting, and they seem to be working out rather well. Yeah. So don't forget, next Tuesday, the day before the inauguration, we have Randy Sarton from Tennessee. That should be exciting. Randy's going to share some of his experiences to do with the changes he's gone in and implemented in his photography business.
Definitely.
Radically change it and doing some amazing numbers. So we're going to chat about that. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to having Hark back on, and of course seeing everybody else. So sounds good. John, you're going to put we're going to get the replay up and yada yada and do all that good stuff. So if anybody's not here, not watching, you can watch it later.
Definitely. It'll be up there. It'll probably be on this page for as long as the page is up. So
yeah. Well, let's not get banned.
No, we won't get banned.
Let's not get censored. Let's not get into politics.
Controversial tweets there.
Yeah, I actually deleted my my Twitter account. I never liked Twitter.
Yeah, I'm not.
And when I saw they were censoring, I'm like, screw that. I don't need it. Yeah. But I still got Facebook and Instagram. But whatever. We won't get into that.
Yeah.
Okay. They might ban me. All right, I'm out of here, guys. Thank you very much.
Take care, everybody.
Hey, John.